The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. 300 alien leaders sat in their high seats, looking down at the small group of humans who stood in the center. The walls were made of a clear crystal that showed the stars outside. The floor was polished stone that reflected the light from above. Admiral Elias Wright stood tall, his back straight, his face calm. He was 62 years old, with gray hair at his temples and deep lines around his eyes from years of making hard choices. His black uniform had gold buttons that caught the light. Next to him stood 3 other humans: Dr. Olivia Hayes with her red hair pulled back tightly, Commander Jack Phillips with his hand resting on his silent communication device, and Susan Miller, who held a small screen in her hands. High Counselor Jean rose from his seat. He was 9 feet tall with blue skin and 4 long tentacles instead of arms. His voice boomed through the hall. "Humans of Earth," he said, "you have spread too far too fast. Your kind has been among the stars for only 50 years, yet you have taken 12 star systems. You build too quickly. You change too much. You ask too many questions." Elias did not move, but his blue eyes watched carefully as Jean continued. "The Galactic Compact has stood for 20,000 years. 30,000 species live together in peace because they follow our rules. They respect our ways. They understand their place." Susan Miller's fingers tightened around her screen. Jack Phillips shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Olivia Hayes kept her eyes fixed on a point in the distance. None of them spoke. "Your ships go where they should not," said Jean. "Your scientists study what should remain unknown. Your people speak of things that should not be said." The aliens in the high seats nodded. Some made clicking sounds with their mouths or waved colored flags to show they agreed. "The Council has decided," John said. "Humanity has 20 solar cycles to leave all outer colonies and return to the Sol system. You will destroy all buildings and take all technology with you. You will not travel beyond your home system without our permission. You will share no more of your ideas with other species." The hall was quiet again. The alien leaders waited for the humans to beg for more time or to argue against the decision. They waited for fear or anger. Elias Wright did none of these things. He simply nodded once. "Is that all?" he asked. Jean's tentacles twisted in surprise. "You understand that if you do not obey, the Imperial fleet will force you to comply?" "I understand what you have said," Elias replied. His voice was calm and clear. "Then you may go," Jean said. "Return to your people and begin the withdrawal." The 4 humans turned and walked toward the large doors at the end of the hall. Their footsteps echoed on the stone floor. The alien leaders whispered to each other. Surprised by the lack of argument, only when the doors had closed behind them did Susan Miller speak. 20 days to abandon 12 planets, she said. "They know it's not possible. They want us to fail," Jack added. "They want an excuse to attack us." Olivia shook her head. "They don't understand us at all." Elias led them down a long hallway with tall windows that showed the city outside. The alien capital world of Thoraxis Prime was beautiful, with spiraling towers and gardens that floated in the air. Ships moved between the buildings like fish in a coral reef. "They think they're being kind," Elias said as they walked. In their history, new species were given only 2 choices: join the Empire or be destroyed. They believe they're offering us a 3rd option. "House arrest for our entire species," Olivia said with a frown. They reached a smaller room where they could speak privately. As soon as the door closed, Elias touched a device on his wrist. A soft hum filled the air, blocking any listening devices that might be hidden in the walls. "Is Operation Exodus ready?" he asked. Jack nodded. "The public part of the withdrawal will begin tomorrow. The colonies will make a show of packing up and leaving." "And the secret part?" Elias asked. "The generation ships are in position," Olivia said. "The phase shift technology has been tested and works perfectly. We can disappear right under their sensors." Susan checked her screen. "The quantum network is 98% complete. When we go dark, we'll still be able to talk to each other across any distance." Elias walked to the window and looked out at the alien city. "For 50 years we played by their rules. We shared our art, our music, our ideas. We helped them build better ships and grow better food. We healed their sick and made their lives better. And now they're afraid of us, Olivia said. Yes, Elias agreed. They're afraid because in 50 years we've advanced more than they have in 1,000. They're afraid because we ask questions they've been taught not to ask. They're afraid because we don't accept limits. Jack crossed his arms. So we're really doing this? Leaving known space? Not leaving, Elias turned to face them. Advancing to positions they can't reach, setting up bases where they can't find us, building a network they can't see or control. And then? Susan asked. And then we show them what humanity really is, Elias said. Not by fighting their empire, but by offering a better way to those who want it. He looked at each of them. The empire thinks they're forcing us to retreat. Instead, they're forcing us to unite. They think they're containing a problem. Instead, they're creating their worst nightmare. A humanity with a common purpose, Olivia said with a small smile. Exactly, Elias nodded. We have 20 days to make a show of obeying their orders. That's enough time to complete our real plan. He turned back to the window, looking at the alien city one last time. When we're gone, they'll think they've won, he said quietly. By the time they realize what we've actually done, it will be too late. Their empire has stood for 20,000 years because no one challenged their way of thinking. That ends now. Susan checked the time on her screen. Our ship leaves in 30 minutes. Elias nodded. Let's go home. We have work to do. As they left the room, a sense of purpose filled them. The Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had threatened humanity, thinking it would make them weak. Instead, it had united them. The Empire didn't understand what they had done. They didn't understand that humans grew stronger when challenged. They didn't understand that telling humans they couldn't do something only made them more determined to do it. Soon, the Empire would learn a hard lesson. The only thing more dangerous than humanity spread across 12 systems was humanity with a shared goal. And now, they had given humanity exactly that. 3 months passed after the Council's order. On the colony world of New Hope, the sky was filled with ships. Large cargo vessels moved through the clouds, landing at the big spaceport where lines of people waited to board. Governor Alan Ross stood on a high platform watching the activity below. He was a tall man with dark skin and short gray hair. He wore a simple blue uniform with a small pin showing Earth and its moon. His eyes were tired from too many days with too little sleep. Chief Engineer Diane Bennett walked up the steps to join him. She had brown hair tied back and dirt on her face from working with the heavy machines. She handed him a small computer screen. We're moving faster than planned, she said. The big machines from the outer farms are all packed up. The last families will leave in 2 days. Alan looked at the screen and nodded. Any problems with the Imperial Watchers? No, Diane said. They stay in their ships at the edge of the system. They just watch and record. Alan looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the blue, the ships of the Earth Defense Fleet formed a protective line between the colony and the Imperial observers. Captain Frank Martinez of the ship, Defiant, was in charge of making sure the aliens saw only what humans wanted them to see. How much are they letting the Watchers see? Alan asked. Diane smiled a little. Just enough. They see our people leaving. They see our machines being packed up. They think we're running home with our tails between our legs. Good, Alan said. Keep it that way. He looked back down at the spaceport. What the Imperial Watchers couldn't see was more important than what they could see. They couldn't see that many of the ships weren't heading back to Earth at all. They were going to secret coordinates far outside known space. They couldn't see that the machines being packed up weren't being taken back to Earth, but to new worlds the Empire knew nothing about. Any word from Earth? Diane asked. Alan nodded. Dr. Paul Edwards sent an update this morning. The quantum network is nearly ready. Once it's active, we can talk to each other from anywhere, even places the Empire doesn't know exist. The quantum network was humanity's greatest secret. The aliens had a system for talking between stars, but it was slow and needed big relay stations. The human system would let people talk from any distance without any delay. The Empire had no idea humans had invented this technology. And the phase shift engines? Diane asked, her voice lower. Being installed on the last generation ships now, Alan said. When they're ready, we can move our ships into a space the Empire can't see or reach. Diane shook her head in wonder. All this time they thought we were just following their rules, learning their ways. They never guessed we were planning to leave them behind. That's their weakness, Alan said. They've been the strongest for so long that they can't imagine anyone finding a way around them. They think inside a box they built 20,000 years ago. A young officer ran up the steps to where they stood. Governor, we've got a message. From Captain Martinez. The Imperial Watchers are sending a small ship toward us. They want to land and inspect the evacuation. Alan straightened his uniform. Tell Captain Martinez to let them through, and tell our people to stick to the story. We're sad to leave our colony, but we respect the Council's decision. The officer ran off to send the message. Will it work? Diane asked quietly. It has to, Alan replied. We need 2 more weeks to get everything in place. Far away from New Hope, deep under the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Dr. Paul Edwards worked in a large room filled with strange machines. Blue and green lights blinked on the walls. The air smelled like hot metal and electricity. Paul was 53 years old with wild white hair and glasses that kept sliding down his nose. He hadn't slept in 3 days. He moved from one machine to another, checking readings and making small adjustments. General Samantha Wells stood nearby, watching him work. She was in her military uniform with stars on her shoulders showing her high rank. Her gray hair was cut short, and her face was serious. Will it be ready in time? She asked. Paul didn't look up from his work. It has to be. The final generation. Ships leave in 10 days. They need to be connected to the network before they disappear into phase space. Samantha walked around the room slowly, looking at the machines. Explain it to me again. How does it work when normal communication can't reach through phase space? Paul finally looked up. Quantum entanglement. 2 particles linked together, no matter how far apart they are. When you change one, the other changes too, instantly. We've created billions of these pairs. One set stays with each ship or colony. The other set stays in our central hubs. And the Empire has nothing like this? Samantha asked. They could, Paul said. The science isn't beyond them. But they stopped looking for new ways to do things thousands of years ago. Why build something new when the old way works well enough? That's how they think. In Washington, D.C., President Nicole Patterson sat at the head of a long table. Around her were 20 men and women in suits and uniforms. The Joint Security Council that helped make decisions about humanity's future. The evacuation is proceeding on schedule, said Defense Secretary Adam Clark. The Empire believes we're consolidating back to the Sol system as ordered. And Operation Exodus? Nicole asked. Nearly complete, Adam replied. 80% of our population has already been relocated to the new colonies in uncharted space. The generation ships are almost all equipped with phase shift engines. The quantum network will be fully operational in 5 days. Nicole looked around the table. For 50 years we played their game. We followed their rules. We shared our music, our stories, our art. But they kept their advanced technology from us. They limited where we could go and what we could learn. She stood up, placing her hands on the table. They thought that was enough to keep us under control. They didn't understand that every restriction they placed on us just made us more determined to find another way. They didn't realize that humans don't accept cages. What happens after we've gone? Asked a woman at the far end of the table. Then, we wait, Nicole said. We watch from our new position of strength. We build, we grow, and when the Empire starts to feel the effects of our absence, when they realize what they've lost, then we decide what comes next. Adam nodded slowly. They think containing humanity will make them safer. They don't realize that the only thing more dangerous than humanity spread across 12 known systems is humanity united with a common purpose, operating from places they can't see or reach. Nicole smiled slightly. Let's make sure they learn that lesson well. Imperial Observer Crack sat in his small station on Charon, one of Pluto's moons. His scaled fingers moved quickly over the control panel. His yellow eyes were wide with disbelief. "This can't be right," he said to himself. For weeks, Krax had watched the humans pull back from their colonies. He had seen their ships return to the Sol system just as the Council had ordered. He had reported that humans were following the rules. But now something strange was happening. Ship after ship was disappearing from his sensors. Not just a few ships, but hundreds, then thousands. One moment they were there, and the next moment, they were gone. Krax checked his equipment again. Everything was working correctly. The ships were simply vanishing. He pressed a button to send an urgent message to the Imperial Command. "Command, this is Observer Krax in the Sol system. Human ships are disappearing from my sensors. I cannot explain how they are doing this. Request immediate instructions." While he waited for a reply, more ships vanished. Krax's hands began to shake. The Empire had no technology that could hide ships like this. No species in the Galactic Compact could do this. It should not be possible. In Earth orbit, something amazing was happening. Huge ships, bigger than anything humans had ever built before, activated their new engines. These were the generation ships, designed to carry thousands of people across great distances. Each one had been built in secret over the last 10 years, hidden from Imperial eyes. At Mission Control in Houston, Flight Director Kevin Blackwell watched as 8,000 ships reported ready. The large screen in front of him showed green. "Lights for every vessel. All ships report successful phase shift," he announced to the tense room full of people. "We are now moving in n-dimensional space." The people in the room cheered. Humanity had created something the Empire had never imagined. Ships that could exist partly outside normal space. They could still see and interact with the regular universe. But Imperial sensors could not detect them. On Mars Colony, the last evacuation ships prepared to leave. Major Greg Carson helped an old woman up the ramp into the ship. "Don't worry, Mrs. Henderson," he said kindly. "We're not leaving our homes forever. We're just going away for a while." The old woman nodded and patted his arm. "I've lived through many changes in my long life. I never thought I'd see us running from aliens, though." "We're not running," Greg said with a smile. "We're just moving to better ground. My grandfather was a soldier. He always said if you can't win a fight where you are, change the battlefield. Across Earth, things looked normal. Lights were on in cities, cars moved on roads. Factories sent smoke into the air. But it was all fake. Computer programs ran everything, making it look like billions of people were still living their lives. In reality, most of humanity was leaving. Not just the colonies, but Earth itself. They were moving to new worlds far beyond Imperial space, taking everything important with them. On the Imperial capital world of Thoraxis Prime, Emperor Valdar sat on his throne. His aide, a small alien with 6 arms, approached with a message. "Your Highness," the aide said, bowing low. "We have received word from the Sol system. The humans appear to be following our orders. They have abandoned their colonies and returned to their home world." The Emperor's face showed no emotion, but there was a strange feeling in his chest. "They gave in too easily," he said quietly. "Humans never accept defeat without a fight." "Perhaps they recognize the wisdom of the Council's decision," the aide suggested. "No," Valdar said. "Something is wrong. Send more observers to the Soli system. I want to know exactly what the humans are doing." But it was already too late. The mass exodus was nearly complete. In a hidden star system far from Imperial space, the first human ships emerged from phase space. The system had 3 planets that could support life. None of them were perfect like Earth. But humans were good. At adapting, Admiral Elias Wright stood on the bridge of the flagship Freedom, looking at the new world on the main screen. It was mostly blue like Earth, with green and brown continents. "We've named it Liberty," said Captain Donna Reed, standing beside him. "It seems fitting." "How many ships have arrived?" Elias asked. "Almost 3,000, Donna replied. "The rest are heading to the other new colonies or maintaining stations in phase space, where they can watch Imperial territory without being seen." Elias nodded, thinking about what they had accomplished. In just a few weeks, humanity had moved most of its population to new homes outside Imperial reach. They had taken their technology, their knowledge, and their determination with them. "What about the quantum network?" he asked. "Fully operational," Donna said with pride. "All colonies and ships are connected. We can talk to each other instantly, no matter how far apart we are." Dr. Olivia Hayes entered the bridge with a tablet in her hand. "Admiral, the first city sites have been selected. Construction drones are already at work. We'll have basic housing ready within days." "And our special projects?" Elias asked quietly. "Proceeding ahead of schedule," Olivia said with a small smile. "Without Imperial restrictions, our scientists are making breakthroughs every day. The new propulsion system is twice as efficient, as we hoped. The medical nanites are ready for full production. And the defense system?" She paused. "Let's just say any Imperial ship that finds us will regret it." Elias looked back at the screen showing their new home. "The Empire thinks they've contained us. They think we're sitting on Earth, licking our wounds, accepting their limits. They've always underestimated us," Donna said. "That's their greatest mistake," Elias agreed. "They see other species as threats or resources, never as equals. They never understood that pushing humanity only makes us push back harder." Back in Nimernine, the Sol system, Imperial observer Krax received new orders. He was to land on Earth and see for himself what the humans were doing. His small ship approached the blue planet carefully. Everything looked normal. Cities glowed with lights on the night side of the planet. Satellites moved in their usual paths. Radio and television signals continued to broadcast, but as Krax's ship entered the atmosphere, he felt a growing sense of dread. Something was wrong. Something was missing. He landed near a large city and stepped out of his ship. The city looked normal from a distance, with tall buildings and moving lights. But there was no sound, no movement of living things, no humans, anywhere. Krax walked through empty streets. He looked in empty buildings. He checked empty homes. Slowly, the truth became clear. The humans were gone. All of them. They had taken everything important and left. The Empire had wanted to cage humanity, to limit their growth and control their future. Instead, humanity had simply walked away, taking their potential with them. And in that moment, standing alone in an empty human city, Imperial observer Krax understood what his leaders would soon learn. When humanity left, the Galactic Empire lost something it couldn't afford to lose. It lost the future. 1 year passed after humanity's disappearance. The Empire tried to keep it a secret. They said humans were still on Earth, still following the Council's rules. But soon, the truth could not be hidden any longer. On the mining world of Keldor 4, Imperial Overseer Grath faced angry workers. The mining machines had stopped working. These machines had been made by humans, and they were better than anything the Empire had built. But now they sat silent and useless. "We need the human engineers to fix them," said the mine boss. "The humans are gone," Grath replied. "All of them. We must use our old mining methods again." The workers looked unhappy. The old methods were slower and more dangerous. Many more workers would be hurt or killed. "This is only the beginning," Grath told his assistant later that day. "More and more things will break down without the humans to fix them." All across the Empire, the same problem appeared. Crop fields grew less food without the special seeds humans had made. Hospitals couldn't save as many lives without human medical tools. Ships couldn't go as far or as fast without human engine improvements. The Empire had never realized how much they had come to depend on human creativity and human solutions. They had seen humans as a problem to control, not as valuable partners. To keep. Admiral Richard Foster watched all this from the hidden human fleet. He and his ship stayed in phase space, invisible to Imperial sensors but able to see everything happening in normal space. He received reports from all across the Empire as systems began to fail. "They didn't value what we offered freely," he told his officers during a meeting. "Now they'll learn what it means to be without us." Humans hadn't just left. They had carefully removed every improvement, every innovation, and every efficiency they had given to the Empire. They had designed their technology to need regular updates that would never come now that humans were gone. On the Imperial core worlds, People began to complain. They missed human entertainment, the music, stories, and games that humans had shared. These things seemed small, but they had brought joy to many alien lives. Even human luxury goods were missed. Simple things like comfortable chairs designed for alien bodies, or drinks that tasted good to alien tongues. The Empire had thought these were just silly trinkets, but they had made life better for billions of people. On the trade hub world of Xantara, a riot broke out when a shipment of human goods failed to arrive. Imperial Security Commander Drex couldn't understand why people were so upset. "They're just human things," he said to his team. "Why do people care so much?" His assistant, who was smarter than him, explained, "The human products worked better than ours. Their chairs were more comfortable. Their tools lasted longer. Their games were more fun. Life was better with human things." Drex shook his head. The council was right to contain them. Humans were spreading too far, too fast. "And where are they now?" his assistant asked. "Not contained, just gone." Meanwhile, on the new human world of Liberty, the first city was taking shape. Admiral Elias Wright walked through the streets with President Betty Warren, who had been elected to lead the new human confederation. Betty was 55 years old with short white hair and a determined face. She had been a teacher before becoming a politician. She believed education was the key to human success. "How are our people adjusting?" Elias asked as they walked. "Better than expected," Betty replied. "People are excited to build something new. Without imperial rules holding us back, we're making progress faster than ever before." Around them, the city showed what humans could do when free to create. Buildings could change shape to match the needs of the people inside them. Energy came directly from the fabric of space itself. In the medical centers, even aging was treated as something that could be managed and slowed. "And our special projects?" Elias asked. Betty smiled. "Come see for yourself." She led him to a tall building at the center of the city. Inside, they took an elevator down deep underground. They entered a large room filled with screens and busy people. "This is the contact center," Betty explained. "From here, we reach out to other species who want to break free from the Empire." On the main screen, a map showed thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Many were marked with colors showing their status. "The blue ones are worlds where we have established secret contact," Betty said. "The green ones are worlds where we have already helped people escape to join us. The yellow ones are worlds that have requested our help." "So many," Elias said softly. "The Empire thought they were the only option," Betty said. "We're showing people there's another way to live. We don't control, we don't force. We invite and we help." One of the operators called them over. "Madam President, we've just received a new message from the Xantari. Their entire system wants to leave the Empire and join the Confederation." "That's the third system this month," Betty said. "Prepare the extraction ships." Elias looked concerned. "Won't the Empire try to stop them?" "They can't stop what they can't see," Betty replied. "Our phase shift technology lets us move entire populations without the Empire even knowing, until it's too late." Later that day, Elias met with Captain Joe Wilson, who had just returned from a mission in Imperial space. Joe was young with a serious face and quick eyes. His ship had been gathering information about the Empire's response to humanity's departure. "It's worse than we thought for them," Joe reported. "The Empire is starting to crack. Outer systems are declaring independence. Trade routes are breaking down. Some species are even fighting each other over the remaining resources." "And the Imperial military?" Elias asked. "Still strong but confused," Joe said. "They don't know who to fight, or where to go. They were built to maintain control through force, but how do you fight an enemy that isn't there? How do you threaten people when a better option exists?" Diplomatic Director Kelly Adams joined their meeting. She was in charge of helping other species who wanted to join humans in freedom. "The refugee numbers grow each day," she reported. "More and more species ask for extraction from Imperial space. The new habitats in the Arcturus cluster are filling up faster than we can build them." Elias nodded, thinking about what all this meant. "We never wanted war with the Empire. We just wanted to be free to follow our own path." "And now?" Kelly asked. Now we show the galaxy there's another way to live, Elias said. Not through conquering, but by offering a better choice. Back on Thoraxis Prime, Emperor Valdar received the daily reports in his private chamber. Each day, the news got worse. More systems declared independence. More populations disappeared overnight. More technology failed without human maintenance. The empire that had stood for 20,000 years was beginning to fall apart, not from war or rebellion, but from the simple absence of one species that had been part of it for only 50 years. The Emperor looked out at the capital city from his window. Even here, at the heart of imperial power, things were changing. The streets were less busy, the shops had fewer goods, the people seemed less happy. How did we not see their true value? He asked himself. How did we only see the threat and miss the opportunity? There was no answer but the growing silence of a dying empire. 5 years had passed since humanity disappeared. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was no longer as impressive as it once had been. Some of the crystal walls had cracks. Many of the seats were empty. The floor was no longer shiny and clean. Hi. Counselor Jean stood in the center where once the humans had stood. His blue skin had faded to a pale color. His tentacles moved slowly, showing his age and worry. We must find the humans, he said to the half-empty room. The Empire is falling apart without them. The damage had spread far beyond broken machines. Trade routes that humans once helped protect now fell to pirates and thieves. Peace agreements that humans helped create were breaking down. Even the imperial money was losing value without the human economic models that had made it strong. Most worrying were the reports from the outer systems. Strange ships would appear for a short time and then vanish. They left behind advanced technology for species who wanted to break away from the Empire. They are building a rebellion, said Military Commander Vex, an old alien with a hard shell and sharp claws. Not by fighting us directly, but by helping our enemies grow stronger. Can we stop them? Asked one of the council members. Vex shook his head. How do you fight an enemy you cannot find? Our sensors cannot detect their ships. Our weapons cannot target what we cannot see. In a hidden star system far from imperial space, the new human capital of Liberty had grown into a beautiful city. Tall buildings with strange flowing shapes rose toward the sky. Parks with earth plants mixed with local life created green spaces throughout the city. The streets were clean and full of happy people going about their day. The quantum entanglement network connected all human settlements across dozens of star systems. Unlike the Empire, which needed to control everything from one center, humans spread out but stayed connected. Each colony was free to develop in its own way while still being part of the whole. President Betty Warren stood on a platform in the main plaza, addressing the people of the Human Confederation. Behind her stood Admiral Elias Wright, now with fully white hair but still standing tall and proud. 5 years ago, the Empire thought they could confine humanity to a single star system, Betty said, her voice carried by the sound system to the thousands of people in the plaza. They failed to understand that humanity is not defined by territory but by ideals. We didn't just leave, we became something better than we were before. The crowd cheered. Betty waited for them to quiet down before continuing. Today I am proud to announce that our population has grown to over 12 billion people spread across 32 star systems. Our technology has advanced further in 5 years of freedom than in 50 years under imperial restrictions. And most importantly, over 20 alien species have joined our confederation as equal partners. The crowd cheered again, even louder. Among the humans in the plaza were many aliens of different shapes, sizes, and colors. Some had left the Empire to join humans. Others were species the Empire had never even contacted. After the speech, Betty met with the Council of Captains in her office. These were the leaders of the human fleets that sometimes made contact with worlds still under Imperial control. The latest reports confirm it, said Captain Joe Wilson, removing a small device from his temple that let him connect directly to the quantum network. 3 more star systems have declared independence from the Empire this month. Their defensive systems are now using our encryption codes. Admiral Wright nodded with satisfaction. And the refugee situation? Growing faster than ever, replied Diplomatic Director Kelly Adams. More species request extraction from Imperial space each week. The habitats in the Arcturus cluster are at 80% capacity, but the new ones at Proxima will be ready next month. Betty looked at a large display showing a map of the galaxy. The areas marked as Imperial space were shrinking, while those marked as Confederation space or independent allied systems were growing. "We never wanted war," she said, softly. "We simply wanted to be free to follow our own path." The Empire forced our hand. On her desk sat a special communication device unlike anything the Empire had ever built. It activated suddenly, projecting a lifelike image of Emperor Valdar himself. This was a private channel that the human hackers had created, allowing them to speak directly to the Emperor's private chambers without his knowledge. "I know you can hear me," Emperor Valdar spoke to the seemingly empty air of his room. His voice sounded tired. His eyes looked old. "Whatever your terms are, humanity, I'm ready to listen." Betty looked at Admiral Wright, who nodded slightly. "Accept the call," Betty said to the device. The Emperor's image showed surprise as Betty's image appeared in his room. "President Warren," he said. "So it's true. Humanity has not only survived but thrived." "We have," Betty agreed. "And we're not alone." The Emperor looked down for a moment. "The Empire is failing. Systems leave every day. Technology breaks down. Trade routes collapse. The Council has no answers. And what do you want from us?" Betty asked. "Help," the Emperor said simply. "A way forward. A way to stop the collapse." Betty studied his face for a long moment. "The old Empire cannot continue, Valdar. The days of one species controlling all others are over. But perhaps something new can be built from what remains." "What do you propose?" the Emperor asked. "A meeting," Betty said. "Not as ruler and subject but as equals. Not to preserve the past but to build a different future." The Emperor was quiet for a long time. For 20,000 years his people had ruled the galaxy. They had never treated any other species as equals. It was a huge change to accept. "And if I refuse?" he finally asked. "Then we continue as we are," Betty said calmly. "The Confederation grows stronger while the Empire fades away. Eventually you'll be Emperor of nothing." Admiral Wright stepped forward. "We don't seek revenge, Valdar. Humanity doesn't want to replace the Empire with our own version of the same thing. We want to create something better, where all species have a voice and a choice." The Emperor looked at them both. "I will speak with what remains of the Council. When and where would this meeting take place?" "Neutral space," Betty said. "The Argos system. 1 month from today, you may bring representatives from the Council. We will bring representatives from the Confederation." After the call ended, Admiral Wright turned to Betty. "Do you think he'll come?" "He has no choice," Betty replied. "The Empire is dying. He can see that now." Captain Wilson looked concerned. "Can we trust him? This could be a trap." Betty smiled. "Let them try to trap us. Our ships can phase shift at the first sign of trouble. And besides, what could they possibly offer that would make us go back to the way things were?" That evening, Betty walked through a park near her home. She stopped to watch children playing, human children and alien children together, laughing and running. This was what humanity had created, not just a safe place for themselves, but a better way of life for anyone who wanted to join them. The Empire had tried to cage humanity, seeing only the threat and not the potential. They had forced humanity to leave, thinking it would make them weaker. Instead, it had set humanity free to become something greater than they had ever been before. And now, the galaxy would never be the same again.